Power rankings in the Canadian Football League have been very difficult to put together, but now we got a new number one. We do not have a new number 9, and it's going to be tough to usurp the Stampeders from the number 9 spot. It is Calgary as the worst team in the Canadian Football League, eliminated from the playoffs for the first time in a very long time. There is no aspect of this game that looks like it is going well for the Stampeders right now, and it feels like beating a dead horse that, like, every week it's like, yeah, team sucks. There isn't a whole lot that we can really go with that. At 8, it is Hamilton. The clock striking midnight and all of those sorts of things on the Hamilton Tiger Cats. And now it gets, the hole that they dug for themselves early in the year gets much more difficult to dig out of as the last 3 weeks of the season pick up. At 7, it's Ottawa. It has fallen, and it has fallen very quickly for the Ottawa Red Blacks. I had said coming into the year, I think this is an improved football team, but it wasn't as improved as we saw at the early part of the season. And I kind of warned people as we were going through the season, I know that this was used as something in our NFL talk yesterday. They aren't beating anybody. Like the wins that they have are not as impressive as you think. And they have a couple impressive wins in there, but a lot of the wins that they had kind of made the record seem a little bit fraudulent, and I think that is catching up to them very, very quickly. At 6, it's the Edmonton Elks. Again, the playoff push falls short for the Edmonton Elks, but I do think that there is a little bit of optimism for the future. And I don't know why McLeod Bethel Thompson would play another snap for this football team. Honestly, ever. But for the rest of this season, no. At 5, it's the BC Lions. As I have said before, I think that there is a very talented football team in there. They just have a tough time dragging it out every single week. But I think now that, it's another week of getting ready and getting used to everything and all of these things, they are a I can't quit you team. And odds are they're going to be playing the Saskatchewan Roughriders in the West semi-final, whether that be out in BC or over in Regina. And I do not feel comfortable with that at all. At 4, it is the Toronto Argonauts. They are another one where I just kept waiting for the defense to get better. And it was kind of like, there's probably a more recent reference than this, but back in 2004 in WWE, when Randy Orton and Mick Foley were doing their Legend Killer thing, and Mick Foley, I think it was when Randy Orton spit in his face, and Foley backs up, and he keeps backing up, and they kept being like, oh, he's going to take a running charge at Randy Orton, he's setting him into whatever, and then he just backs up and he just leaves. That's kind of what my thought is on Toronto and how my opinion on them has gone. It's like, all right, here it comes, it's going to go, it's going to get you. No, you know what? I think it's just bad. Nothing there has really clicked in the way that I thought it would this season. At 3, it's Saskatchewan. They have won 3 in a row. I think the defense is still obviously the star of the show with this team, and if the offensive line could have stayed healthy this year, I think that this would have been a really, really dangerous football team. As it is, they are kind of peaking at the right time, and the defense is good enough that they can, I think, steal a game or maybe even 2 in the postseason, which gets you to a championship, and then anything can happen. I do think that some predictable play calling and offensive line injuries and just some relative inconsistency have held this offense back. But I do think there's a lot of talented pieces on the offensive side of the football for Saskatchewan. It's just not executing still. But 3 feels very high for them. I will admit that. And there's probably some bias in this, but the way Toronto is playing right now, do you take Toronto over Saskatchewan? I don't. Same thing goes with BC, Edmonton. Saskatchewan just beat Edmonton. So I have a tough time putting Saskatchewan lower than 3. At 2, it's Montreal. And it's more what number 1 has done than what Montreal hasn't done. But since Cody Fajardo came back, and honestly, since they clinched a playoff spot, this team has not clicked in the same way. Even when they win, it still doesn't look as impressive as you would want it to. And I think the Philpott injury really is hindering this offense in more ways than we want to give credit to. And I do think that that is kind of holding them up a little bit. So we will see if they can flip the switch, because this was kind of the thing they benefited from with Toronto in the previous year, right? Where the Argos kind of were able to take their foot off the gas and kind of cruise, and then they played a meaningful game, and 8 pick sixes later, all of a sudden, the Alouettes are going to the Grey Cup, and then they're winning the thing. So can the Alouettes avoid the same pitfalls that they took advantage of last season. But at number 1, it is Winnipeg. This defense went from being underrated to very much appreciated, and now the offense, which kind of went from being overrated, is now appropriately rated because they're balling and they are lighting it up. And so this is an offensive football team that I think scares people, and it is now looking like the most complete team in the Canadian Football League. That would be the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. So I do think they are the number 1 team in the league, and rightfully so, I would say.